So one of the prayers that you prayed was that there would be a greater presence in the community of Portage in tangible ways. More people experiencing the freedom we have in Christ and calling PAC home. Physical spaces where PAC continues to draw people together in love, to celebrate God's goodness in our lives and bless one another. And this prayer has been answered in maybe a surprising way for this summer. On July the 8th, really early in the morning, a car slammed into the north side of our building. It caused devastating water damage. There was water everywhere. It took out a Sunday school classroom, and it took the stove that was in the church staff room and it squashed it. It pushed the counter of the sink into the fridge, and then the fridge went into the bathroom, and there's just a huge mess everywhere. It was just completely devastating to see this area that was used so much to be just completely destroyed in a really short amount of time. At that time, we wouldn't have said that this was any sort of answer to a prayer. This is not what we were praying for, and definitely not what we were meaning when we were asking God to draw people to our church. As we started thinking about it, and as we started realizing what was happening and what had happened that night, and we looked at the damage, we realized that if the car had gone a little bit to the right, it would have hit the main water line coming into the building, and it would have been devastating for our church. We wouldn't have had water that Sunday. Who knows how long that would have taken to fix and what kind of damage that would have done. If the car had gone a little bit to the left, the car would have hit a steel beam that holds up the whole building, and that steel beam would have done incredible damage to the car and to the person driving it. They would have been seriously injured, if not killed. Instead, the car hit kind of a soft spot in the side of the building. Basically, the car went through some stucco, some insulation, and some drywall, which was why the person who was driving the car was able to leave, and we don't have a clue who it was that was driving that car. As we talked about what we should do, it brought us back to years ago. We had started dreaming about our town and about some of the needs in our town. One of the huge things that Portage has a need for is childcare. There's lots and lots of kids on waiting lists for daycares because as parents are working, and both parents are working in a home or they're single parent homes, who looks after the kids is a huge question for parents who have to work. And so we wanted to be able to meet that need in real tangible ways at PAC, but we didn't know how that would be. The renovation would be huge and it would be a humongous cost. So we started to dream and think about that dream that we had had a long time ago and how we wanted to maybe pull that forward. And we started to think, what if we didn't restore the building back to the way that it was? What if we renovated it? And what we started to dream about is, what if we took that space and turned it instead into a playroom and a snack and craft room for a preschool, which could be 2 Sunday school classrooms, a preschool washroom, and then a kitchen that could work for a daycare to prepare meals, and then also a staff washroom. What would that look like? What would that cost us? When we looked at the cost, it was $100,000 for that renovation. And we submitted that idea to the insurance company to see what they would be able to do and how much would that be covered, because we weren't wanting to necessarily just restore it back to the way that it was. And so that $100,000 bill with insurance money in turned into $12,000. Now that's doable. So that's what we decided to do. We worked on it and we ended up with a great little area for preschool that can turn into 2 Sunday school classrooms and just an amazing space for kids, and it's all brand new. And it was at a complete fraction of what it would have cost us if we had not had that car drive into our building. One thing I'm curious about is the person driving the car. What's going to happen to them? Is this going to be a turning point in their lives? Are we going to at some point hear somebody's testimony saying, it all started when I drove into the side of a building and I saw that God had his hand on me? Is this going to be something that we hear about again? I'm praying that we do. But there's also another thing about this that's been answered and is being answered. Today is the first day that the kids have been able to be in the Sunday school classroom. And so God is using that, starting today, he's using that space to draw kids to himself and to draw their families to himself by providing just an amazing place for kids to go for Sunday school. And then soon, the preschool will move over there. And soon, a daycare will start in there. And we will start to see God using that little space to draw hundreds of kids and many, many families to himself through that space. And that's God answering a prayer by putting a car through the building.